manager, and he works with, oh Jesus, I'm sorry. And he
I,
works with
I
Landness. Let me not
I
confuse
work
that
with two
company.
companies actually. I work with two companies at the same time.
Downside, downside and Landness.
Yeah, so Landness and Tempo. So currently I'm in Tempo's office today. Um,
Oh,
yeah,
okay, that's cool. All right, so over to you. I think you can take it off from here. I'll drop a link to your profile in the chat.
yeah, cool. Okay, hello guys. My name is Adibimpo Malasho. I work at Landnest as a um product manager and also at Tempo. I'm a design engineer. So I also have to like lead project delivery, making sure that whatever the developers are actually working on meets like the same standard as expected by business as well as the designers. So that's pretty much that about that. So today, what you're going to be learning about, let me share my screen, is how do you set feature spec and make sure that you are able to decide on this spec. Just a quick overview about me again is, like I said, I have a PM background and I worked on like a couple of projects that I cannot mention. And I'm currently a co-founder at Aleti Consulting. And I have this funny quote. I will say, will I say stole or copied? Yeah. So and the quote is all about like I break things and I ship things basically. Sometimes in any of the other. And what that looks like is, and I think like that philosophy is like what I feel like every PM should kind of like adopt to this. Like what I do is like, so how that works is like I first look at what is working well and the questions like what could be better. And so in the course of like trying to uh, push for what could be better, right? We tend to like break things along the way. And but in the course of also breaking things along the way, you also know like, oh, okay, these are actually things that we could have done to be better. And then we go on to like shift things even like way much faster, right? So some of the products I worked on is still their books, Chickly, not yet out there yet. Same thing with their books, still currently in the works. Landers OMS, it's a product play with majority target companies in Nigeria and Canada to leverage our kind of like CMS, not CMS now, a CRM platform to be able to with the help of AI agents to be able to like um from let's just say from like I'm trying to acquire a buyer to like also like even post sale processes generally so that they keep buying more and more, that kind of thing. So what is on our agenda is just 5 basic steps is why do you have to spec features, and how do you go about specing the features, and what inspire feature specing, and then researching, and then we'll talk about like actually like now you've done your research, you understand why you need to like create features, like what do you go on to decide to build, and then once you've decided on what you want to build, like how do you like call out different specification, is there documentation involved, how does that actually look like in a real world scenario, right? But I'm just going to be using case studies, and then this is 2026, so now you need to like leverage AI as a PM, because like without AI right now, I think you probably like be lagging behind. So let's just go into like why does feature matters. So when you think about like feature from a PM's point of view, what you are just trying to say is like if you are in the um if you're in the business of saying yes to everything, then you are practically building nothing. So, and that is why you need to specify exactly at what point you need to know what you want to build and when. I know some of you will say like, yes, we don't really know what features we need to build. We don't know how best to like serve our customers. We don't know how best to and provide to them. So the first thing you need to do is that, and let me just give an example, like what like this, like even like more realistic, like what many people stress themselves to think about is if only you will just ask, right? If only you just ask, you stop stressing yourself. So a typical example is I need maybe 5,000 naira, right? To do something specific. And I know somebody that needs a value, right? But I'm not even sure whether I'm the best person to provide value for them. But I know I need 5,000 naira. So I can walk up to the person and like, instead of saying, please, can you borrow me 5,000 or I need 5,000? What I can do instead is I ask them like, oh, what are you looking for? Or what are you looking to achieve? Just by that already, they will specify like a couple of problems that they have. And once they specify like these are the couple of problems that we have, then what you do, what you go on there to do is like sometimes you may not even be in the capacity to, but you know the person, right? And you introducing the person or bringing that, making that capacity to come alive, right? You get paid and the problem gets solved. And I've done like one many times in time past when if I'm broke, the next thing I'm thinking about is like, how do I make sure I'm not broke, right? Who in my network do I know that most likely have problems? And then I go on like start asking them questions, right? So and that leads us to what actually like the fundamental as a PM is your research skill has to be like top notch. Like one of the things that makes me stand as a PM, especially in like madness, because there's sort of like other PMs, is that when it comes to doing research, right? The company and again, like the business will always say that there's no time for research, you need to do this and all that. Like even with the help of AI right now, you can literally learn from what your competitors are doing. And then you can actually look online through social media to find out what people that are actually talking about, right? For example, like in the course of my research, one of the when we like trying to like research on like okay, which agencies or which agents or agent real estate companies should we like focus on, right? The first thing I did was like basically just look at okay, what were the other agency looking for, right? And then what were they being offered that was not being what were they being offered that did not meet up to standard, and what exactly were they looking for? So we are going to look at or unpack on some of these questions as we move along. Okay, so now when you've determined that okay, these are all the problems that this person have, right? Sometimes especially like let's look at a typical product development cycle, right? So the first thing is you've done your research, you want to like build your product now. So sometimes you may want to solve like 15, 20, 25 problems, and then, or even better still, you decided that okay, this is one problem I want to solve, right? And then this problem now, if I unpack it, it could give me like maybe 50, 100, 200 features. The problem is that even when it comes to like user experience, right? The users are just coming to learn about your app for the first time. When you load them with like 500 features out of the box, they don't even know where to start from, right? And that's why one of the things we also do, like, especially here in Tempo, is that we always like define like what's the first time user experience as opposed to what's the pro user kind of experience, right? And all of these things now, these kind of users now begin to help us determine what kind of features should we offer for them, right? So if you're a first time user experience, we're not expecting to load you with like 100 features, right? So example is like Instagram now, when they launch, right? Like the first iteration before like they move over to but before they were bought by Facebook, right? Was that what they had majorly was that a picture app, you could just take pictures, post about it, make a comment, and then a couple of other nice to have features like changing filters and so on and so forth. Right now, um, a the average Instagram that we have today has literally more than 50 to 70 features, right? And I'm very sure that if you take like make a show of hands, like how many have you used in the last probably like 1 month? I can boldly say for myself, probably like I just do more of like the scrolling through and then looking at profiles, right? Nothing more because like I'm not much of a content creator. A content creator that might use reels, shorts, the ads tools and so on and so forth, right? So one of the things that killed MySpace, I'm not sure many of us are familiar with MySpace, but MySpace was the era before Facebook. And what killed them was like the features was so much they didn't even like determine that okay, how do we set it up for um for individuals, as opposed to how do we I'm sorry and how do we set it up for like first time users as opposed to like um experienced users, right? So that's why if you notice Facebook especially has gone through like a couple of changes over the years, right? Such that now when you create a new account, right, the experience feels different than when you've been using your Facebook for like for the past 2, 3, 5 years, right? Because these are the things that like you consider when you're trying to like set out your feature. So now, like I said, when you want to consider feature, right? Consider feature building. The first thing you do is your research, right? But now the question now is that how do you go about the research? So many people just feel like, okay, I just need to talk to my user, right? But the problem is, what do you talk to your user about? How do you define that framework for you to talk to your user? So the framework I mostly use is job study done. So the first question that always come to my mind is, what is this person trying to do? Like the user now, what exactly are they trying to do, right? So I'm not even thinking about like what's the features I'm going to offer them, is what is the bottom line. So for example, now I live in Canada, right? And let's say Uma Kamana wants to like build a fintech product, right? First question she will ask me should not be oh, do you like this send button feature in our app, right? It doesn't concern me. I don't like your app, I'm not interested. What I'm interested in, I just want to send money home. And not just home, I want to send money to my loved one. So if Wakama asks me now and says, okay, Ade, what exactly are you trying to do? Right? I say, okay, actually, what I'm trying to do is I just want to send money safely home because I don't want to be scammed. I don't want because one of my other fears like I am like the exchange rate is just too unstable and I don't want to like send. So he probably like yeah, he gets like I did to my friends that oh they're going to receive 50,000 naira and then when he gets to their bank account they're receiving 48,000. I don't want that, right? I want to know what they are going to receive at when they are going to receive it, so that there's no mistake anyway, right? So now already that already gives Wakama like an idea of what is to be done. And so when you benchmark um your first step, your research phase as oh, this is what this is trying to achieve, right? So you could do like a broad, like general Google research or like tell AI to do your research for you, right? And just like give a broad scenario, ask it like, okay, what are people exactly trying to get done? Okay, once you've done, so if you want to read more about jobs to be done, like an aside is you look for Tony Ulrich. Ulrich is spelled Ulwick. There's also like another jobs to be done by one Harvard professor. So like again, they're very similar. Just is very like it's literally like a very long process and idea. Like I'm just trying to like streamline it to like the most simplest version you can get it with. It's like you ask somebody, what exactly are you trying to achieve? A typical example is you guys are not very familiar with this, but like if you've noticed all these like electric cutting tools like there's a sewing machine, not sewing machine about like the actual saw for like cutting wood and all like that. Like when they were so the name of the company is Bosch, Bosch, and when they wanted to they were struggling in the market with General Electric basically. So General Electric is like one of the most popular products. So they have like the same way in Nigeria we have like LG and Samsung and they like so the General Electric, there's Bosch and so on and so forth. So General Electric was like literally dominating the market like all the soy industry and all of those things. And then when they came in, when Bosch came in, they were like they had their own too. It was selling, but it was not selling as much as they wanted it to. So what did they come up with? They didn't come up with something like, oh, we are going to change the design of our blade. No, the question they started was like, what are these people trying to get done, right? And then they started making different studies and surveys, talking to different people, and they found out that sometimes, yes, they're trying to cut a saw, but they have like a particular shape that they want to cut out of the wood, and they were like, that actually makes sense. So what if we build something that helps them to make cutting of different kind of shapes in different kind of style way much more easier, right? And then that way now they were able to like break it down that oh okay, so we need to we need to introduce certain features, right? What does that feature include? So a blade that could bend, a blade that could have a stopping so they don't cut their hand, and all of those kind of different features, right? So they were not speaking features from the eye. Oh, I have an idea, right? But they were expecting features from like, this is what this we are trying to do, okay? And then go through the steps, right? So again, apart from Tony Orwick, there's also Clayton Christensen. So like different people have like different models of these same jobs to be done, but rewritten. But again, the bottom line is just say, what is this person trying to achieve? Once you understand what they are trying to achieve, then you build your way backwards, right, to your first ideation process. So now you successfully use your framework to be able to like draft your questions, right? You talk to the users, right? And then now, while you are trying to do that, you are talking to like your individual users. Now you also have to look at like, how does it affect like your broader view, right? From the aspect of just the individual to the aspect of like the entire populace, right? So now the entire populace now is dependent on this acronym I came up with called PESTO. So I'm this kind of person. I'm a framework there, right? I mostly work with like different frameworks because again, I like to like template stuff such that because I'm doing a lot of things, I always just ask myself, okay, where am I in my template, basically? So I look at my template and then follow the steps. So I'm looking at, in terms of understanding my market now, I use PESO, right? So I look at what's the political and legal regulation? Are there licensing requirements that we need to do, right? Before we can like spec out a particular feature. So for example, now we're building a fintech product, right? What are the bank regulations, right? Or what are the fintech regulation? What are the licensing requirements? So normally this is something I'll not even think about, right? When I'm trying to spec out, but because of my framework, now I'm able to think about these things like step by step. Then I look at like, okay, is this the right time for me to enter this market? Right? These are the things I'm trying to determine first, even before like trying to like break down my features to the next steps, right? So I do a lot of documentation for all of these things because again, I'm just trying to have like a central map, an overview of all of these things. Like if you see my documentation, I need to have like just side note of more than 50, 100 pages just for myself, right? And then so that when I'm doing my presentation, I'm like break it down because again, nobody's going to read it. It's only you and AI, or if you're working with AI, that's going to be reading all of this stuff. And then you need to look at the social, like I've seen a lot of companies die because of this, that they fail to understand the social mechanics of their market. And this, like, even if you don't take anything out of this program, like before you determine your future, please determine your social environment, like the social the social environment of the market is very important. For example, now, no offense to all of us Nigerians, but I'm just going to say like we like gossip. So that's why like we have like Bella, Kataefe and all of those guys, right? They are trending. Why? Because like we like story, we like just gist in general. I'll not call it gossip, I'll call it gist, right? We just like, oh, we are gist me now. Do you understand? So if you are going to be, that's why like blogging in Nigeria is still a thing as opposed to like abroad where not many people like follow up with blogs. Instead, especially like in Canada, there's like X and all those other kind of X Reddit, right? Those other kind of platform um that you can review. Same thing. I still remember like the Timu case study about like how I can't remember the name of the lady now, but she was able to like influence the Nigerian market to start like buying buying product with Timu. Timu have been struggling to enter and like, penetrate the Nigerian market for like 2 years. Why? Because they had the same idea. They were like, oh, in China, everything is like integrated into one app, and then that's the WeChat, and then everybody like have that kind of conversation there. And then they were trying to imbibe that same culture in Nigeria. And for 2 years, they were struggling with their marketing, right? And when this lady came, because she understood our culture, because again, she's Nigerian, so she understands everything and how it works, right? She was able to now influence, uh, um, because again, the product did not change, right? The features had to change slightly, but again, just to what to affect the social environment. And then again, you want to think about the technology, right? So how do we deliver to the market? Like for example, now we know that like Nigeria is like a cash-based kind of society, right? So sometimes you have to think about like this kind of things, like how will the transaction take place, and what technology do we need to focus on, right? In order to build like, many people, like when they first start, they always like, oh, we are just going to say everybody have computers, so we just have to be like a digital product. Not necessarily. So again, depending on the company that you are working with and what their roadmap looks like from like a epic point of view now, right? So and then when you looked at that, you now also look at like what's the actual environment like. Okay, so for example, now did they have solar problems? Did they have light and all of those things, right? So once you've thought about all of these steps, right, and all of this you can actually do in like a couple of hours now. It's not like before when everything is difficult, right? So I think if time permits me, I can do like maybe 5 minute demo. But if some people want to learn more, I have like a separate program where you can learn more about that. So um it's more like a one-on-one kind of mentorship stuff. So this now, looking at this market now, so you see that the first thing we did was in our processes, we first understood what job we're trying to achieve, what job our users were trying to achieve, right? And then we are using now the lens, that lens, to use it to observe our market using this framework. Okay, so if you want to screenshot the framework or something, maybe I mean make it, put it up like a website so you can like download it as PDF or something. I'll think about it, or I'll talk to Wakama. Then once you understood your market now, the next thing is for you to do what is to look at your competitors, right? And so I'm going to be using another framework again. I use this Potter's 5 forces. So most people that did MBA, like everybody is being taught this, like literally. So I'm not like, it's not like a product management sort of stuff, but like it's something being taught in business schools and all like that. Okay, so we look at Potter's 5 forces process, right? So the first one is competitive rivalry. Second one is supplier power. Third one is the buyer power. Fourth one is threat of substitution. And then fifth one is what? Threat of new entry. Now, when you look at competitive analysis, again, all of these things you can do with AI very quickly. But I think maybe I'll try to shade them. So now let's just talk about it like very quickly. So when we talk about competitive rivalry, right? We're looking at who is your competitor, what's the what features do they have, what features do they not have, and then we use the lens of SWOT analysis, right, to do that. So I gave like a snapshot of like what a SWOT matrix could look like in terms of like strengths, opportunities, weakness, and threats. So we look at your internal system as well as the external system. So you're also comparing this, right, with your competitors. So for example, now what are my strengths as a company, right? What power do I have, right? And that helps you, that teaches you serenity. Like as much as you want to be able to like solve everybody's problem, right? You need to have like serenity to be able to like determine that, okay, these are actually my strengths, right? And these are my weaknesses. These are the opportunities I have, and these are the threats, right? And all of these things combined now is going to like help me win. So far so good. I've been talking. Any questions? Or I'm talking too fast? I need to slow down. Anybody? Comments? No comments, no question. Do I go on? Okay, I should go on. All right. So uh so that's in terms of like competitive rivalry, right? And then the next thing is the supplier power. Supplier power now is you. Like, do you have the capacity to be able to deliver whatever you're offering to your customers? It's very, very important. Do you have capacity? If you don't have, what are the things that you need to do in order to what? Have that capacity. Okay. So you can see that it's not, you're not just looking at the lens of just from a product manager alone. You're also looking at the lens of like a product owner, right? Or working within an organization. Now it depends, because some of these things again, like remember, all of these are templates, right? It depends on where you are coming from, whether you're working for a big company or you're working for a small company. If you're working for a small company, like you want to know their power, like their capability, right? In order to be able to determine, yes. So someone will say that, are we not just jumping the gun by saying that we haven't even acquired customers and then we're already thinking about like our supplier power. So from this analysis is just to able to teach you that okay, oh, this is the actual number of people we can actually serve, right? Because it's still going to help you to determine um whether whether your term as total addressable market, right? Because like I've seen many people like they'll talk about their term, their total addressable market, and then sometimes I'm always like, with your technical know-how and the power that you have, are you sure that you can actually deliver to your actual serviceable obtainable market? Like, can you deliver to these people, right? And 90% of the time they cannot. Like when they like it's just more like saying like it's more like what we call the happy pattern design. Is like when we say, oh, everything is working out for you, right? So you're looking at, you finally got like maybe 100 customers. Your goal was to get one customer, but you get 100 customers now. How do you manage them, right? So even though you haven't gotten it right now, like you have to like anticipate for all of these possible scenarios, right? There's even there's this process. I can't remember the name of this person. I don't know. I didn't document it, but there's this process where I think I also learned it from like when I was learning from one of my previous job, the senior product manager. Then he came up with this ritual. It's also like in the agile framework, but like the ritual was like, instead of like when we start our sprint planning, right? Instead of starting sprint planning, like, oh, this is what we want to actually achieve in the sprint, we first map out like everything we are going to do. We first discuss everything we are going to have to talk about during like when we are doing retrospectives. So like for people familiar with agile framework now, when you're talking about retrospective, the retrospective ritual, you just talk about like that's where like it's going to be like all hands on deck. So immediately like maybe the product team in its entirety. All of you are talking about like, okay, all of the things that went wrong and all of the things that could have been better. So now think of it like during sprint planning, you now bring that retrospective into sprint planning. So what that teaches you, like you talk about like everything that can ever go wrong, right, in the course of the sprint. And then you address all of those things, right? So because again, those things will not influence your feature speccing and roadmapping, so that now you know that, oh, this thing is actually going to take us like 3 sprints of 4 sprints. So we actually have plans for any form, like not totally all scenarios, but like most of the ones that seem obvious or not necessarily obvious, we are able to like figure these things out, right? From the sprint planning. So our sprint planning is not like it's not like 1 hour meeting or 2 hours meeting. So this sprint planning can take like 2 days, right? So and in Canada, we mostly don't do anything on Mondays. Like Monday is like mostly public holiday because again it's a new week. People are just coming back from the weekends, just like a warm up. So we all just always like most of the companies I've worked for in Canada is we start our day on Tuesday, like our real day starts on Tuesday and ends on Friday, and Monday is just for warm up, basically. Unlike Nigeria, where Monday is like the real thing. Um, so that's about supplier power. So let's go to power. Like, okay, remember, like, and this one is always at the back of my mind. It's also like teaches you like two things basically. It's like whenever you're trying to offer solution to somebody, right? You need to be sure that they can actually pay for the stuff. So, and what that means already out of the box is that you're actually in competition of what they want to spend their money on. For example, now, like this is a true fact is I would rather spend money paying for AI subscription than eating. Like right now. Unlike 2 years ago, I would say that that's like the dumbest thing ever. But when I saw like the amount of time it buys me, I'd rather pay for my AI subscription um than eat, right? So anytime you're trying to build a product or you're trying to feature spec, these are the things that you also have to determine, right? Behind the scenes, even like before saying like, oh, I actually want to like specify like my actual features. Okay. And then again, you have to think about like, and this on that thing, like now, especially like if you're in the tech space, anybody can look at your product yesterday and build a better one in a couple of minutes, not even a couple of days again. So how do you feel like, so it will also help you to determine like this spec that I'm building, is it a foundation? Yes. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Give me. Just 1 minute. I need to change the room because they want to use the conference room. Yeah. So sorry about that. Can you guys hear me? Hello? Oh, okay, awesome. So now, when you think about like your threat of substitution, right? Um, again, like what I was saying is now anybody can wake up to build what you built, right? So which is like in Tempo especially, like one of the things we are focused on is like everything we are building, right? Some parts can easily be built, but like the way we are wiring it up, even if you have the latest AI model, right? It will still struggle to meet up with like the level of quality I'm trying to push out. In fact, I joined Tempo like November last year. December I was like, we need to rethink the product from scratch. And right now, like we're currently in the process of like rebuilding a totally new product. Though like using some parts from the other parts, and we'll be launching like in a couple of months time, right? So that's that about that. Now then, threat of new entry, right? So again, same thing with like threat of substitution and threat of new entries. This is where like you like after making sure that you've put in the guardrails to make sure that okay, it will be very difficult for people to substitute you. The next thing is that somebody can come up with something totally new. Because like if you look at like for example now OpenAI and OpenAI and Anthropic. So these are like the two major leaders right now. When you think about like AI, people know Anthropic as Claude and OpenAI as ChatGPT. So when you look at these two softwares, right, there was no Anthropic or or Claude until like maybe 1.5 years after um not totally sure. I think about 1 year after or 1.5 years, one of those two, after ChatGPT, right? And that is when I'm talking about like specifically when people knew ChatGPT because ChatGPT has been existing for no, not ChatGPT, like the OpenAI company has been existing for like 7 years. Yeah, I think this is their 9th year now. So and I remember when they launched GPT-1, GPT-2, 3, and then 3 took off when they embedded with like ChatGPT, right? So even like when you think about it, like even now, like when people ask Sam Altman, the CEO of ChatGPT, like um people were like who is going to, and some people are going to replace and all of that. It was like, let them come, let them see how difficult it is. But fortunately, even like the Indians too are like beginning to catch up with building like their own AI companies and models. Same thing with like the Chinese companies and so on and so forth, right? So those are like the new threat of the threat of new engineers that are coming into the market, like very very quickly, right? So when you are building, these are things like you need to now think about like how do you adapt to the changes that are happening very rapidly. Like for example, now last week, no, not last week, last month, no, January rather. So a guy on Twitter launched OpenClaw, and a lot of people have been using OpenClaw now, right? Even me too. I have OpenClaw on my system. I have OpenClaw on the cloud. I have OpenClaw on my system, right? And I use it mostly for like doing research or doing tasks, right? So currently, like I think I can show you this. I'm currently working on something. So this is an AI agent here that's been working for like 5 hours now, right? I'm talking to you, but I am actually working. That's why like even my boss say I have no issue with me because I am still working. I am still working. While even still talking to you guys, right? So I didn't have to like, monitor it. I don't know whether some of you guys noticed like when my screen glitched a bit when I was like talking in this point here, right? So it was the AI making some changes and giving me some adjustments as I'm talking. So as I'm talking, it's also like I also have another computer that is giving me like my talking point. So I don't forget my train of thought. So um now these are like all the 5 steps that Porter's 5 forces include. Again, if you want to like read more on all of these things, they are available online. All right. So now you've done your competitive analysis, right? You've set up your jobs to be done as a document, right? You can also like come up with your research document or like collaborate like with researchers. Okay. But online is at this point we are still not like specking out features, right? At this point now we're just doubling down like think of it like a funnel, right? And then we're like focusing down on the what of the users, right? Is spend like at least spend 30% of your time talking to your users. Like in Tempo, we literally hire our users. No joke. Like we hire them to come to work. Like the only thing you do is shall come to work. When we build, we put it in your hand, you use, you test, you give us feedback, and then you can go to your house. Right? So they don't come every day. In fact, we have like different variations of people that come into work. They just come, test, give us feedback, they go. Come test, give us feedback, they go. Right? So these are like kind of examples that we have. So again, but if you cannot afford it, like just find different scenarios in which you can make this a possibility, right? And again, like there are like a lot of materials around like structuring research questions, what that looks like and everything. But let me just streamline it to these two items is when you're looking to your questions, try as much as possible to do user interviews. So you're like literally talking to them, right? So some of you may feel like, oh, I'm talking up point. No, all of these things is you are gathering enough information to actually like break down your features. Okay, so we are still like literally in the research phase, right? Trying to do open-ended questions and do active listening, right? And then we're also like going through support ticket if we have. It could also be like a good mind of ideas. Now, once you gathered all of this information together, right? This is at the point where you now want to begin to like decide where exactly do we need to be our feature, right? So there's actually a big jump between this place and this place, and that place is where we do a lot of synthesis, right? And this time around we are mostly like talking with the designers, to especially like UX designers, to like identify like, okay, what are all the possible features we can come up for this stuff, right? And again, you're also like talking to every stakeholder majorly, like you're talking to the developers, you're talking to the designers, you're talking to the business people. Ali, do you have a question? Hello. Okay, let me go on. Any questions so far? Okay, so now you're talking to different stakeholders basically, right? And then again, another framework. Um you've listed out like these are all the possible features that we have in this app, right? How do we decide on which one we should take, right? Again, I don't mostly use right scoring. I use the Kano method, so which I'll show you shortly. So yeah, we are just trying to determine like what is our reach, that is in terms of like how many people are we going to deploy this to, or even if we deploy it to everybody, like what is the total number of people we have like enough confidence to say these people will most likely use it, right? And then how difficult is it to build, or how difficult is it to design, right? Because again, all of these things will also like help inform us in our timeline. Okay, and then if the effort is minimal and the impact is high, and we have like huge confidence that there's a lot of people that are going to actually be using this feature, then we decide, we can say that okay, yes, this is a feature that we should include in our build, right? Talking from a software perspective. Now, there's another one that is very, very associated with like I've seen like in a lot of PLDs. I also use it when I'm talking to like AI. Is I just want to have like say an example like a must have, it should have, it could have, and would have. So must have is like, okay, for us to have like a successfully release of these products, right? What must our product have based on all the research and findings we've done, right? And then the next thing is like, this is not really that critical, but what should we have? But it's like, it's very, very important. And then what could we have? And then where exactly are we not going to permit at all into our application? Like, so these are like the four items, why we call it a so if you look at the short form is MO. So MO like must, and then M for must, S for should, C for could, right? And then won't is the W. So that's how they came up with the Moscow uh framework. Okay, so, and I'm not saying that won't is like is we are never going to have it. No, it's just that at this time right now, we are not going to have it, right? We could have it like in the future, next week, next month, in the next releases, and so on and so forth, right? Because again, breaking all of these things out makes development effort, especially, a lot more easier, and then whatever step that we have now much more actionable. So I always use Moscow method like every single time. I feel like when I'm dealing with AI, or I'm using AI to like build product, like currently right now, I'm still going to deliver the current build that we're working on for our users in Learners OMS to test. But right now, the AI is currently doing like user acceptance testing, right? Based on this Moscow framework. So I move on. So again, I mostly use the Kano method. And what the idea of the Kano method is like, what's the first question I always ask myself is, and again, I just use like streamlining from like the jobs to be done, like, okay, what are users saying is missing, or what's the basic thing that users are actually going to miss, right? It's just like saying that you had a performance and then whiskey came and then it left like almost immediately. Like, you are going to know that, okay, you missed something at that point, right? So the same thing is like, what is that most basic thing that users are missing, right? And how do we deliver it to them? Okay, so think of it like the Uber example is, you have the most basic thing is that at least you are going somewhere, that's the job to be done. Now, what's the most basic thing that needs to happen? The most basic thing is that a transport, a car now needs to come and pick you up. Like, that's literally the most basic thing. So these are the things that like you break it from. So I break it like, okay, what's the most basic thing I need? Well, or what's the foundation? Like, think of it like the foundation of building, right? You want to have a house, you need a foundation, right? So what is that most basic thing? And then what can I do to improve it, to make it better? Like, do we need to increase the speed of the app? And then how do we introduce the light, right? Because again, I also have like a design background. So these are the things I'm always thinking about, like, how do we introduce the light? Like, a lot of people just do like, oh, let's just do basic and performance and end it there. For example, like a lot of fintech products again. But like, how do we introduce the light? How do we make it enjoyable? How, like, for example, now I'm iPhone users now, right? Like, sometimes you use an app and then you just notice something and you're like, oh, I actually like this thing, right? This looks cool, right? Or the delight that you get from like Instagram after like the scrolling and all of those things, laughing and all of those, right? So this Kano method has helped me to like break things down. Like, okay, so these are things I need. I know that these are basic for basic features that I need for the app, right? And then these are the performances that I can do to do better. So, for example, and again, when you're writing your PRD now, it could be like a product requirement document. So it could be literally under non-related items, or non-technical, non-functional technical items, right? So your non-functional technical items could be like, oh, the page has to load 2 seconds faster. When you press this button, this action needs to happen almost immediately, and so on and so forth, right? Introducing some delight is like, for example, if you open if you use like linear product management software, and then you over on like on a badge or an avatar, you notice like you see like more information without you having to do like double click into like some of these features, right? And for PMs, right, is like a form of delight. So it doesn't have to be like, oh, playful, cartoony, or gamified. It could just be something that people will not necessarily notice that, oh, this is actually there, but it's actually there and it works, right? And it's more like meeting users at exactly where they need to be. So now, when some of you might ask that, okay, when at what point do we use like any of these frameworks? Literally for me, when I need to do sprint scoping, right? Because again, you are trying to do like too long didn't read version, so, or in English a summarized version, right? Is for sprint scoping I mostly just use Moscow, and then if I'm still like doing discovery, like general discovery, I mostly do Kano. Rise I don't necessarily use it, only like from time to time, like I only use it when the AI is the one doing it. Basically I'm like, okay, AI using the Rise methodology, can you tell me how I should like prioritize building? Okay. And then so the AI that we use in the office actually has knowledge of our code base, so it knows who is delivering what and when, and so it's able to like determine the effort that needs to be positioned, so I know exactly like what needs to be done. But nowadays, like AI is like literally doing like 100% of the coding, and then what we do in the office is just like we just spec the features, like we just literally just like write out the spec. Once the spec is fully standard, we forget about it. The AI does like majorly every other thing. But again, the AI has enough context about who we are, what we do, what we are trying to do, where we are trying to go, the way we are trying to serve, and all of those things, right? Not that we just use like ChatGPT out of the box. No, we don't do it. So that's another thing, because I'm sure like some people will be like, oh, after this class we told ChatGPT to do this and it didn't work. It's not going to. So now the general idea is, please don't marry any framework. Like again, I used to say like all of these are just templates. You can always like modify your own, right? Because you need to like customize it to what you are doing. Basically, just customize it to what you are doing. That's like pretty much it. So now let's quickly look at some case studies. Yeah, question. Yeah, Obina, you asked a question.
Okay.
Your hand is raised.
Yeah, good evening. Yeah, good
Good evening.
evening.
Yes,
My question actually, you're talking about frameworks.
yes,
We've talked about Moscow,
yes,
Kana, and all the rest. So,
yes.
my own question here is this: when do you know when to use the right framework, and can you just on your own invent your own frameworks? You get, and then um, how do you're talking about ChatGPT and all of that, isn't it, for your workflow? Um, does it really mean that while working, you have to keep prompting all these AIs and all of that to help you with your work? So I just want you to narrow it down and then thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for the question, Obina. So there's a couple of questions, but let me pick it up like this. So if I understand you clearly, the first thing I want to understand is like at what point do you choose um what framework to use? And then the next question you asked was like um can you create your own framework? And then the next one was like at what point do you use ChatGPT or AI to like um to see your work? So let me just take it from the back. So for the third question, right, I'm going to show you like how to leverage AI. So I think I tagged the topic AI edge. So how to leverage AI to like come up with some of these stuff, right? Now, moving to number two question, or let me jump to number one is it depends basically. But when in doubt, like right now, when in doubt, just ask the AI, like what, like literally tell the AI what you're trying to achieve, and then she like determine for you. But again, if there was no AI aside, I did like broke it down already, like, and especially like in this stuff you're seeing here, right? Is when you are in discovery phase, like you're still trying to understand the product from a general point of view, you adopt a Kano. And why? Because why? It helps you to categorize features by user satisfaction. So remember, jobs to be done. So jobs to be done is I want to achieve this thing. Now, by the time this person has achieved this thing, how satisfied will they be? And then use that to like to break it down based on your features. So if I do this, and it helps them to achieve that, will it um will it increase the satisfaction score if we give them a survey, right? For example, you just came down from Uber ride, you see what a star metrics, right? And then you pick the star metrics. So the same thing, think of it like in the reverse now. What if we introduce this feature? Will it improve the star metrics? So that's when you use the Kino method. And then the RISE method is like you are trying to score and rank objectively, like, okay, based on this feature, which one do we need to deliver first? And how hard is it to deliver? That's what we are thinking about. Like, which one is it to deliver first, and how hard is it to deliver? And then sprint scoping is, now we've understood that this is what we need to deliver now, right? So we now go to Moscow and say, okay, right now for this build, right? So let's say in our prioritization, we prioritize like maybe 20 features. We can now say in Moscow, a must will be like, as long as we are going to build version 1, there must be like 3 or 4, right? So you have used the process to like break it down. Okay, so instead of trying to build from the technical aspect, always try to build from like the general idea, like try to, as much as possible, to build from the user and then deliver based on the user's expectation rather than the company's expectation. Okay, and what that looks like is you talk to user, you get their jobs to be done, you look at the entire market, because again, one person does not fit the entire data, especially when you have like a mandate revenue of like, for example, now we are trying to do like maybe 10, 20, 50, 100, $200 million, right? So you cannot be thinking like someone that wants to do like maybe 100,000, 500,000 to like maybe or even like maybe 50 million naira. Like, there are two different like, it's still the exams framework, but like the way you are like prioritizing all of these things, right, is influenced on based on that number. And we actually like the two companies I work for, they have a number. So my own is to figure out how exactly all of those features that we want to build, deliver for the users, and hit that number, right? And all of those numbers usually have like a time limit after 365 days, sometimes after 200 days. So many times I have sleepless night because my mind is up. Because I'm like, when I'm talking to the marketer, how many people have you converted this week? What are they complaining about, right? So these are the kind of things, or these are the kind of questions I'm asking, right? While I'm still trying to like work within my framework. So it's like, because I'm bogged down with like a lot of things being thrown at me, I structure them into like all of this framework. Now that takes me to your next question, is like, can you build your framework? Absolutely, yes, 100%. Normally, you're not supposed to end. If you build something that works for you, right, you can share it online, and if people see it and they like it, they can adopt it too. That's how to build framework. It's not, there's the entire framework to anybody's anybody's body, right? It's just you coming up, right? And again, like, don't try to build framework because you want to build framework. Build framework because you know that this thing has genuinely helped you, or it has, and you want to share with the world. Like, there are so many frameworks that are out there that people have invented and it's working for them. But like, when you, like, again, if you take it from like the science point of view, where an accepted scientific research is when people are able to like recreate the same circumstances, right, before like it's been accepted. So otherwise it's just structured as hypothesis, right? So the same thing now is, that's how you like handle frameworks. Okay, so that's why I said don't marry framework, date everybody. It could be 100 there are more than 10 frameworks when we talk about like feature prioritization, basically. So now just a few case studies, one demo, and we'll be out of here. Sorry for talking this long. So again, let's look at Netflix, right? So when it started, right, the idea was like, let's focus on the strategy and let's not try to be tactical. But like, again, this from a textbook standpoint, let me tell you, for when I saw I was listening to the former CEO of Netflix from Diary of a CEO, right? You guys should can search it up on YouTube. Very nice talk, right? So the general idea was like, oh, we are just going to package DVDs or CDs and put inside mail and deliver to people, right? And then they deliver it, and then they noticed that their other competitor at that time, right, what they were doing was like, because they were very big, they could give you the CD, and then if you don't deliver the CD very quickly, they are going to punish you. Now, as at that same 2000, what they did as at 2002, 2003, one of the major problems that they had Netflix was that they had so many inventory in their system, and there was no way for them to like there was no way for them to like keep it somewhere. And then it just again the way they pick out the feature was like, how about we giving people, and they will tell them that you can hold it as long as you want, right? And you don't even have to pay like extra fee. Whereas in the other home video model, that's the other company, I can't remember their name now. When you hold a CD more than the day you are expected to hold it for, right? Then they will pay you. You will pay penalty if you want to collect another CD. Otherwise, you'll be banned from using their platform to collect CD to watch movies, right? And where did that lead them to? That lead them to being going to extinct, right? Because now Netflix was like they literally did the opposite, because they did what the problem they had was like they were wasting money on storage space, and people keeping those DVDs in their house is literally like saving them money on storage spaces, right? So that's why like sometimes the way the ideas come is not like of specking out features. It's not like something that's very very consistent, right? But it changes. Now the late 2005 2006, right? They noticed that things like YouTube were just like around in the conversation of like getting sold, and then like YouTube was finally sold to Google, and they were like, oh, people are streaming this stuff. We have DVDs. Why not us like try this idea, right? So, and this is when you remember like the Porter's 5-step process, and you're looking at like, oh, these are competitors, right? So you're looking at competitors from two perspectives. You're looking at it from the horizontal perspective, and then you're looking at from the vertical perspective, right? And then when you're looking at it from your competitors from the horizontal perspective, like this could literally be like people that all of you are like on the same playing field. And then from a vertical perspective, this could be like people that are doing totally different things, right? But there's this kind of similarity there, right? So YouTube is any random person can upload video. Netflix is anybody can upload, just that you have to go through like our series of approval processes, right? Before you can do that. And that's like very, very difficult to do anyways, right? But again, they started with streaming and then they went through the roof. Okay. And now one of the biggest problems is like most Hollywood movies go straight into like after it's done with what's it called? With showing in the cinemas and so on and so forth. It then goes straight to Netflix, right? And then people subscribe and watch and so on and so forth. So if you think about it, like they were not just thinking about like, oh, how do we deliver product today? They were thinking about like, how do we deliver product, or how do we make feature decision in a strategic manner? Like, and when you think about strategy, you are not just thinking about playing to win one day or playing to win in one thing, right? You're also thinking about like playing to win in multiple things, even though it's not at the exact same timeline, right? So when you remember like the Moscow model, like one of our won't have is like, for now we may not support streaming, but in 2 years time or 3 years time, we definitely have to support streaming, right? So you are always like modifying your model. It's not like you're married to like your feature or your decision, right? I give you an example. 2022, TikTok has taken everybody by storm, right? Now it's like 3 or 4 years ago now, and then YouTube introduced YouTube Shorts, right? And then they had to like spec the features and everything, and then Shorts went through the roof. Same way like Instagram Reels, right? So these are examples that you see, right? That people have actually like specified like features from a strategic standpoint, right? Rather than features from a features from a we have this idea and then we are going to build, right? So if you go through the process I'm giving you, I know that some of these are like very, very high level, but you can like begin to like connect the dots, right? Because again, this is my own process, and I'm just giving you like examples of wins that people have done. Okay, so again, this is on that computer, copy on that computer, right? So stories, Snapchat, and then Instagram have their own Instagram stories. Again, they are able to track their daily active users, right? And it's also through the roof, right? And one of the things you help them to do is like you help them with retention. Okay, so these are the things that you aim to get, right? So for example, now a typical example for this one is like, how do we build up on retention, right? Oh, let's just see what Snapchat is doing. Snapchat is still valued a lot, but again, Instagram is valued a lot more because of they still the exact same thing. However, like they actually had like their own spin to it in terms of just interface design, basically. So your spin could be literally anything. You could also like adapt ideas. Even with AI right now, you can create clones of other apps, right? So you specified your features. How do you document them? You use what? Your PRD to document them. So your PRD is what product requirement document, and then for modern PRDs, they are like very short, data driven and readable. So before some like 2 years ago, like basically like when I was in the other company, like you would give me like don't be like maybe 50 pages, 60 pages Word document for me to go through. And yes, then I had the capacity to like read everything. But right now AI just like do most of the reading and then extract just short, data driven and readable, right? So that's something that I can easily present or send to other people to like take a look or review very quickly. And then what we also started doing was that another thing we started doing was like me specifically was like I have like a high level PRD, and then I started seeing each of my feature as its own dedicated PRD. So that way I don't have anything lost. So I'm still going to get about like maybe 50-page PRD, but now if I need to see like a central map of how everything connects to one another, right? I have just that one cheat sheet that like specify those other features from a high level, and then breaking those features down again into like the explainable points, right? Or connecting with like design documentation or technical documentation as well, right? It's easier to navigate rather than just having just one single um document. Okay, so generally in this PRD now, like you could have as much stakeholders as you can, depending on the look and feel of your company, basically, like just the general makeup of your company. So, but mostly as the PM, because I've seen some PM trying to do too much. Again, mostly as the PM, your own now is to just write the what and the why, and then explain the problem so that anybody gets it, right? And then let the engineers as well as the designers determine what the solution should look like. So you guys come into a room, or you as a PM, you discuss with your designer. So mostly like brainstorm with the designers first, rather than like having trying to like generate the solution by yourself. Again, 90% of product managers right now, they first generate the solution by themselves, and then they deliver to the engineers and the designers and ask questions for like what changes should we make? Is this thing achievable or actionable, right? And some like again, because like seven like no, let me say 45% or no 60% of designers right now, they don't have the PM mindset. So sometimes they are just more like just pushing interface design rather than actually like doing core product thinking. So like if a PM is lucky enough to get like a product designer, a product thinker generally, because again there are many clean product designers that it's only graphic design work they are doing. So those kind of people now, once you know the kind of thing you're working, basically, you know whether you should like come up with the solution and then have them just implement, or also like think through the solution with you. Okay. So now you've come up with your features. Now you want to document everything properly, right? So you need to write about a proper specification, right? So your PLD actually just contains like your specification, and then this is like a very neat sample that even AI loves this. You describe your problem very simply, who your target users are. You tell us this, you give us a user story. So as a user, I want to be able to do A to Z, right? Like just like a template for your jobs to be done. And then you tell us what does success look like for you. Are you looking to this? Like you are looking at the success metric from 2 points. You're looking at the success metric from the point of your user, and then you're looking at the success metric from the point of your company. Okay, and then you can also still bring down the success metrics to like depending on the stakeholder that needs to have a success metric. Okay, it could be the developer, like success metric for us is like if we're able to ship less bug, right? Again, so these are the things that you can actually specify. And then again, in scope and out of scope is literally where you introduce like your more scope like a general overview of your Moscow framework. So for example, we could say from a high level, we want to be able to support users to travel from A to B, and then we want to support that. Oh, for now we're not going to be supporting just train, and then in your requirements now, you will now say, oh, you must have, it must be a car, must be able to go at this fun speed, must be able to have this certain kind of other features attached to it. Okay. Please give me a second. I need to charge. Okay. So now, yeah, we have now. So using the Morse code now, you now like specify it inside the functional requirements, right? And then for your non-functional requirement could look like the website must load like 10x faster and all of those things, right? So again, you can find as much template online as possible. Then I think other people to like provide you templates. So and then the next thing is acceptance criteria. Like this is like very, very important. So acceptance criteria is like talking about what is our definition to be of done. So we have like the act of doing and definition of done. Like definition of done, I can't overstate it in terms of like sometimes you have an idea of what a feature should be and how it should behave. But like how do you say, okay, at this point, this feature is actually completed? So if you don't define that from the onset, you are going to have a lot of difficulty satisfying the user, satisfying the business, satisfying the team, right? Because say for example, a user comes and say, "Oh no, we don't like it, like we like it like that. Oh no, we don't like this one like this. We want to change it." Or the business is like saying this, right? So you being able to like specify. I'm not saying that it should be fixed, but like flexible, but like for the rollout, this actual rollout that you're doing, let's say version 1 or version 2, like very, very specific. Oh, if this button, I'm just being, again, this is an example, it's not, I don't take me verbatim. If this button is color red, it means that it is done. So your attendance criteria can literally be like your entire document over again. But is your attendance criteria should be benchmark, it should just be literally be a benchmark for your functional and non-functional items, right? You can even have AI. You can take a screenshot of this template and then talk about like the problem that you have and have AI generate every other thing for you very quickly. And then like you can tell it to like use as much optimized words, fewer words as possible. Because like if you're not careful, you can give like 10 pages or 20 pages, right? Whereas you just want like maybe a single page or 2 pages max for something like this. Okay. So now I'm supposed to walk you through a live PRD, but I think I'm actually over time. So what I would do instead is drop a uh I'll drop a template like that'll be like much later after this class that people can look at. But a general overview is yeah, in my PRD I have like for this PRD books I have like is that story, why this matter. Like again, remember, yes. Uh,
Okay, my question, sorry, my question under the PRD is we're talking about the metrics.
mhm.
Then another one, we're talking about the scope and out scope. But
Yes.
under the metrics, I while writing the PRD, are you going to like make a kind of um under the scope? Are you going to try okay under the metrics? Are you going to write it section by section based on let's say what the users and probably um, the project, the overview of the project. Are you going to just section it like kind of, would I say, um, like on sentences, like each of them with a particular um, paragraph or something like that. Then the other one on the in scope and out scope. Please, I want you to really talk about it. I know it's about Moscow and all of that. Talk about it. a little bit so I can understand.
Okay, thank you. So, the question you ask again is like, how do we measure success, right? How do we write? How do we document measuring success? Are we looking at the perspective of measuring success from an overview point, or we are looking at it line by line, like step by step? Now, the answer I will give you is this: it depends. So, remember, I told you that me, when I'm writing my PLDs, right, I have a document, an overview, like think of it like an executive summary document. Okay, because that's, and I'll tell you why I used to have, I have that document is because AI, every information you give into AI is it comes at a cost. Okay, so meaning that you you have to like optimize your document in such a way that the AI gets the full gist without reading everything. So like everything I do right now, I'm thinking is how do I make my AI successful for me? Like basically, that's the first thing first. Now, I told you I break my own apart. Is I have an overview document. So in my success metrics for my overview document is literally an overview of everything in the app. Okay, so I'll be everything in that build because again, may not be necessarily be like everything in the app. It'll be like for version one, oh, these are the features we want to have, right? Because again, when we get to like maybe start talking about like, but I don't think it's in the scope of what I'm teaching here. Is for example, you ship, it works week one, week two, you have what we call a regression. Regression means that after 1 week, you just know that some things are not functioning well. How do you document that, or how do you add it back? Do you like introduce it back to the PLD and all of those things, right? But I'm not going to talk about all of those things. Let me just like scope it down to this because again, this is like everything I've said so far is like it's a lot. So for user stories, you benchmark your like the default way of doing it is like your success is benchmarked on the eye level, and code the word eye level of your user stories. Okay, this so all your user stories, they are detailed, right? And then you benchmark your success on each of those user stories. Okay, now the way some people even go ahead to write acceptance criteria, right? Before I come back to the in and out scope, is that they are benchmarking each acceptance criteria based on two things now: your user story and your success metrics. Okay, but again, they are not going to say like, oh, for example, now I give a trivial example like on day one, our definition of done is like onboard 10,000 users. That's a success metric. That's not an acceptance criteria. An acceptance criteria is that, okay, in the case that we have to adopt 10,000 users on day one, right? Our system must be able to accommodate that. And a typical example was 3 years ago, no, 2.5 years ago, December. Our company then partnered with somebody, and then the goal was that based on this partnership, right, we are just going to have like maybe 1,000 signups or probably like 1,500 signups. So we built our system capacity basically to adopt 1,500 people. And because or to adopt 1,500 people. And on that day, we had about 6,000 signups because again, it was like 3 for 7 days, so you can use it. And then that was the time when AI was not even like that popular, right? So all the features we were building, like we rolled out like based on AI, got like a lot of attention because like yes, as at that time, you could not find many other products building things around AI, right? And what were we doing basically was that most of the product we built at that time was just we take whatever conversation you give us, right? We refine it and then we make it something that you can post back online. And then every other person that used us to post, we're like ranking in terms of followers very, very quickly. They're getting like insane amount of engagement. And it's not something that you do like you test today and then it doesn't work. No. Once you test it today, in like a couple of days, you start seeing results. So when people use it like for the first 6 days and then they were seeing results, not subscribing was like an insane insane process, right? But do you know that we lost about 2,000 users that day? Why? Because they were not able to sign up, because we were able to only double the capacity of just taking in 1,500, and as at that time we had about 60,000 users. So put in perspective of having 60,000 users, and then you only, yeah, your plan was like just accommodate 3 people. And so, everything we use, we are paying for AI costs, we are paying for many other resources. So these are like the things that we have to like factor in when we are like trying to determine both our in scope, out scope, measure for success. Do you understand? So now, when you talk about like in scope and out of scope is basically saying 2 things: is won't have, plus we never ever 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 have. Okay. So for example, like this is a funny example. Like if you're a software company, you can say we never ever have like maybe a robotics company. Yes, you could be like the software for the robots, right? But we never ever have is for the robotic company. But like in scope now could be like, okay, everything that you need to do, every piece of software that needs to come together for the robot to come alive, right? But won't that could be like, for now we may not have A or B, but we may have it in the future. We never have, again, is also structured under out of scope. So like, oh, we are not going to be building hardware part, or we are not going to be building robot parts. Do you understand? So these are the things that you look out, that you literally like specify and look out for. Okay. And back to acceptance criteria, how do we know something is done, right? It is you compare your user stories and your success metrics, you compare them together, then you use that one to define what your acceptance criteria would be. Okay. So an example of what that looks like is make sure that regardless of whatever you say your success is or your user story is something that you can actually test out for, even in the testing phase. So again, I give you an example, like when you click on a button, it must be color red by the time you click on it, right? So these are like kind of basic example, but again, don't take me verbatim for that. And then again, when you talk about metrics, right, you're looking at maybe onboarding completion. Do you understand? And then when you determine like, oh, what the problem is, right, or what the layout should look like or anything, you're talking about like maybe visual hierarchy and all of this, which is actually under um your scope, right? Whether it should be in scope or out of scope. Okay. Now, I think based off of everything I've said so far, so let's just talk about like um uh um using AI as your co-pilot, right? And then we call it a close. Now, the first thing you need to think about using AI as your co-pilot is that one, you've built something, or one, you've discussed like, okay, these are actually features I want to work on, or I'm just starting, right? What things that I need to determine when as a PM that is just starting out, right? 5 things you always need to think about is: number 1, research synthesis; number 2, PRD; number 3, computer analysis; number 4, data analysis; 5, meeting notes. These are the 5 pillars that you need to consider when you want to leverage AI. And there's a reason why. Is because you are doing what we call context building. So context building is like the most important thing about AI, not even your prompts. Your prompts are actually practically useless without context. So all these 5 AI pillars, they are the fundamental of what powers them. Literally, you are just trying to build context. And what does context mean? For example, I just say, the body is black, 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 the body is black. And you're like, is this guy okay at all? What's wrong with him? But if you have context of like, oh, a teacher comes in and told Ade that, oh, Ade needs to say the body is black 5 times, right? Now you have context like, oh, the body is bad, the body is bad. That's why he's saying the body is bad. So the same thing, many of us, when we throw prompt out there, that's literally what we are doing. We're just saying the body is black, the body. The air is like, huh? What are you saying? But the guy doesn't want to look stupid. So like gaslighting you, and you think that, oh, yeah, it's actually very correct. Okay. Why? Because the AI doesn't have context. So as a PM, the first you need to do is that you won't need to make sure that for the AI to work for you, you need to first work for the AI. And what do you do is that you need to build context. Now, what are the pillars that help you to build a successful context as a PM? Is you need research synthesis, meaning that you've done your research, you have all your meeting notes, all your journals, all the screenshots, everything stored, right? And then you now tell the AI now to try to understand everything that is going on and connect the dots. And then you give it like concept of your own template, because again, it works very well with template. That's why I have templates. You give it like your template of how you like writing PLD, and then don't write it yourself. Have the AI write it for you, because now it has the context. Now, in the course of writing, all your other forms of research, like doing research on competitors, do analysis, and all of those other things, right? You can have the AI do all of those for you, like on the fly, without even like thinking about it. Okay. And then once it has done that for you, you can now say, okay, based upon all of this thing now, I want to like perform data analysis for me, right? And then anytime you go into meetings, if they don't mind, you can literally like record it and then have, for example, like I don't know if you guys will notice this, but like, there's this kind of dot here. So this dot allows me to like just talk to my AI, right? So sometimes when I'm in meetings and I want to like record what the person is saying, I can just click on this, or even I can use my normal voice memo notes like this. So I have like different recordings of like all of this, and then I have like the actual transcript. Yeah. Okay. So that way I have like enough content that I can give to the AI, and the AI can like listen to it. In fact, when the AI is like doing my user testing for me, I have it do like so you can see like UATDs, like I have like different videos. Like I tell you like you should like create videos for me so I can see what exactly is going on, right? So you can see like these are like different kind of videos that is doing here, including like screenshots, right? The video is not for me to watch. The video is actually for the AI to get more context. So because at every given time I could be working with like maybe 50 AIs. And mind you, I'm not actually the one working with the 50 AI. I'm only working with one, but that one AI can deploy 49 other AIs to perform different kind of tasks I want to achieve. For example, today when I was refining my slides, right, I just came into the stuff and told the other, oh, I needed to like make some design changes. So you can see here like it's making some design change. You can see like I'm talking about feature spec and presentation. I have like other teaching programs too, right? And then like helping me to like refine some of the items, right? And I didn't have to like look at what it's doing, because again, as long as it looks good there, I'm good. Okay, so meaning that now 40% of your time needs to be spent trying to gather as much data as possible. Okay, so even like if you have like Claude, ChatGPT, so Chat PLD is optimized for helping you to write PLDs, but you have to pay. Miro AI, you can use it to write PLD. Mixpanel, if you plug Mixpanel to your platform, right, it can use it to like synthesize data. Ota is for, it's just like this one too, just for recording your meetings, right? Or you could actually like just have a voice recorder, record everything. Go to like, if you don't want to pay at all, you can go to like Google AI Studio or use ChatGPT, tell it to transcribe it. So one thing you want to do there is like you want to select this first and then switch to like 3.1 Pro Preview. Tomorrow it may change, because again, they're always updating the AI models, and then just paste in your audio there and just tell it to transcribe it, and then transcribe it, and then tell it to like synthesize data for you, and then you have like a folder where you can save all of these items in, right? And then now I did like, this is my new way of working. Like I mostly work with, I don't know, some of us might not be familiar, but I work with this app called Claude Code. So it's something that once you install it, like, so if I say Claude, so the name is Claude, so this is what you see, right? So Claude Code is like it's a terminal application. So the terminal is like, this is the terminal here, so this is it here. So but this is what you see here. It's literally like ChatGPT 2, but like I prefer this version. Why? Because this version is literally sitting on, you can see here, so you have users, you have academic collaboration, so it's sitting on my system, so it can see like all the files on my system, like both the one I have on the cloud and both the ones I have on my system. So it's able to like have enough context about what I want to work on, when I want to work on something, or when I don't want to work on anything, right? So essentially we've been talking for the last 45 minutes, 1 hour now, and this thing is still working since for the past 6 hours. Can you see it? And every time it's like making changes, looking for bug fixes. You can see like it's also like writing the report that I can even look at, right?
So, and this is one of the like biggest issues when it comes to like can I secure a job and everything. Like one of the requirements is that you have to be able to like use Cloud Code, ChatGPT, and all of those things like in your process, right? And then be able to like deploy AI agents to be building different stuff. Okay, so already you can see here now like what the developers have built now is able to like specify bug, and it's telling me like the actual impact, right? Why I'm still talking to you guys. So I will still like go through it and then look at it. That is why I'm able to work 2 jobs like without thinking about it like at all. Okay, so now how does determining or defining idea to specification work in with Cloud Code is number one, you describe the feature. Okay, number two, you tell it to generate the PRD. Number three, you review the PRD and then you refine it, and then finally, if you like what you see, the ship. So I wish I could have been able to like do a demo, but like I'm actually behind time. So now there's this keyword that like going around that like it's called vibe coding. So all of these actually like relating to vibe coding, but you as a like I see the word now like all these kind of skills, whether you're a technical person, like whether you're a developer, you're a designer, you're a TM, right? All of these things are like becoming like combined into one thing, right? For example, and that actually came out from like this keyword called vibe coding, right? So vibe coding is like you're literally just chilling and then the AI is like writing for you, but it's not a lot of chilling, because again, one thing that you have to very do first of all is like you need to like plan all the list of features that you want to build, and then once you plan all the list of features, you need to write like enough correct specification. So again, you do that back and forth with the AI over and over again. And the way you do it is like you come over here, you press Shift Tab if you are using Cloud Code, and you go into plan mode, right? And then let's say you want to work on a couple of features, you can talk about it, and then you guys can like talk about it for like hours. Sometimes I'm on this plan mode for like 4, 5, 6 hours a day. I'm just talking, right? I'm talking to the AI, and then I'm telling like, oh, break it down for me. Let me understand this. Explode this thing for me, right? Let me see how it works. Then if it makes sense to me, then I cannot tell that, okay, now based on what you've done so far, I want you to like take second. I'm trying to say that, okay, no. So I want you to like take second actions. You remember when I was telling you about like everything you do is very costly, is that every AI model, right? They have a memory and they have memory limits. Okay. And this is why like you need to optimize the kind of document you are feeding it. Otherwise, these are things that will happen to you. So if you look at it here, this topic, you can see conversation compacted. What it means is that it has summarized all our former conversation, so that now it has forgotten some things. Okay, but because again, my entire file system, that is my entire computer, is this context, is able to pick up from where it stopped last, right? That's why the fact that it has forgotten everything that it was doing. Why? Because I maxed out the memory, and then is taking more. And even I think at some point it should have like maxed out the memory again. Okay, so usually, you know, like the more I use the stuff, it has like a memory counter here, so it will be counting downwards up to like 0. So once it hits 0, it's going to like try to summarize everything so that you can like continue, right? But again, it has forgotten like maybe probably like 60% of everything you're talking about. So these are the things that you have to like look towards when you're trying to build with Cloud Code. But again, the subscription is not cheap. I think it's about like $200 every month. But like there's a cheaper version where, so again, if you want the free version, just come and use Gemini. But again, just like it's exactly like ChatGPT, you're just pasting files and all. And then they have like this same Cloud Code version too. It's called the Gemini CLI. So there's like YouTube channel videos on how to implement this. So I have like a class where I teach just specifically like as a PM how you can use all of these AI tools easily without even like thinking about all the things you're trying to implement. So what does the PM of 2026 look like? This is just more like a additional bonus because I'm basically done with my class now. Is number one, you need to be fluent in AI, and then you need to have consistent or persistent context, meaning that you need to have enough documentation that is enough context that will be provided to AI, even if you are starting like a fresh AI message. Every single time is able to understand that. Number 3 is rapid prototyping, and that was how I got my job at Tempo. So what happened was that when I was in the course of the interview, like they were asking me a question like, oh, they have ideas. I was like, oh, what are you guys trying to achieve? And then they told me, and then within like 30 minutes of while we're having the conversation, I was just pressing my computer. right? I was talking to them, I was like, please give me a moment, I need to put something down. And then by the time we are done with the meeting, I was like, oh, I need to show you something. And then literally everything they talked about, right? It wasn't fine, but it worked the way they anticipated it's going to work. And they were like, you are hired. So screen is like best testimony of 2025 for me, basically. So these are the things that you can do as a PM working with AI in 2026. One more additional bonus before we call it a close, and then maybe I'll just take like one more question, and that'll be always like with AI, like with what's the word now? With there's this phrase. I would like to use a phrase or like with with great power comes great responsibility. So now, and the reason is because like this is in real life, and it's also like with AI is that number one, there's feature like when you are brainstorming ideas or like determining features with AI will just be like suggesting so many features for you. So you have to always like take it back to like, okay, what are the users trying to achieve, right? So there's always feature build. Like I want to build everything for anyone. So those are two things you need to avoid is you need to pick specific set of people and deliver specific set of items to them. Okay. And then the next thing is you don't have any data at all. You don't have anything to back what you're trying to say. And then I think the user want this. Please avoid I think the user want this, right? Based on my understanding of the market forces, you can start like that. The user will need this, or based on the user request, something around that. Again, just a bit of caveat is like sometimes people don't know exactly what they want. For example, there was BlackBerry, but people did not know that they needed iPhone or better Android phone, right? Until those things came to be. But these people were able to foresee that, okay, based on where they are now and the way people actually interact with devices and struggle with devices, this is what they will most likely need, right? So these are the things that you can do. And then the next thing is please try as much as possible not to ignore your users. Talk to them as often as you can. Again, the bottom line is the reality of things is that sometimes we just vibe everything. It's like there's no one framework that works 100% all the time. But there's you, there's your customer, and then there's a context between you guys, right? That you can see to what bring into reality. And finally, is that a question? Yeah, and then finally, please try to avoid big spec because big spec leads to scope creep. Scope creep leads to failed acceptance criteria. Okay, and then I'm going to like I think you guys should just take a screenshot. So this is like the cheat sheet of everything, like your PM toolkit. Okay, and then finally, any questions before I call it a close?
Okay, good evening. My question is, let's say based on the frameworks, is there any platform or something whereby you can, maybe if you are so curious that you want to create your own kind of frameworks or something,
Uh
is it actually advisable, or and then if you are to create, where do you do it, or how do you even start?
okay. So for the framework now is that the first thing you start from is that why do I need a framework? I tell you why. I told you exactly why I needed my framework is I have a lot of things that I'm doing, right? And I forget where where I stopped last in terms of like handling a particular part of the process, because again the process is all over the place. Actually in real life the process is usually like all over the place. Sometimes you could be writing PR and then you remember that, oh, you have not actually spoken to this other user, right? And then you jump on the call and you're like, oh, I need to go and change this part of the PRD. Oh, we have started building this feature, but sometimes this feature is not like realistic because we just spoke with the user again last week and the user was like, I'm not feeling that one again, I think I'm feeling this one. Or your competitor just released something new, right? So all of these things are like living document that they change, but because you already have a framework, right, you are able to say, okay, I think I did this here. Then if I'm jumping back to this place, I'll just like add it to the list of things I need to do and then like tag a timeline or where things were like going all over the place, right? But like they have like different segments. Think of it like a board with like different segments, right? So when you think about like you trying to create your framework is number one, you ask yourself, why do I need to create a framework? Number two, is it important that I create a framework, right? And then number three, this framework that I decided to create, will other people be able to use it in their life, right? So these are like the things that you should do. But again, the first thing you need to first think about yourself, like what's your own working process? You know, some people they are very active in the midnight. Some people it's during the day. So that kind of thing too is the same thing for like when you're trying to like determine writing features and all like that. So one more questions. One more question. Sorry. Okay, no question. So in the absence of none, thank you so much guys for having me. I wish I could stay longer to do a demo, but I'm sure that we are all tired already. I have to get back to work now. So bye guys.
Thank you so much, Adegun. Thank you.